Hello everyone. Welcome to our next webinar session. Today, while we wait for other attendees, please use the chat session and tell us where you're joining us from. Uh, Myself, I'm joining today's webinar from Poland. Matt is in the US. We are an international team over here. We'll be talking about identity intelligence today. Our speaker is going to be Matt. So please, if you can, just use the chat section and tell us where you're joining us from and say hi. All right. How are you doing today, Matt? How's the weather over there right now? In Poland, it's getting colder here. It's the natural business over here. It's time of summer is over, so it's getting colder, but it's still okay. How about yourself?
Yeah, this is actually the nicest weather in Dallas. So I'm in Dallas, Texas, and it's kind of warm, but still very hot for some European countries.
Mm.
But it is generally around 40 degrees Celsius for European guys, and it's over 100. I mean, so it's kind of hot.
Yeah, that's quite all right. Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right. Yeah, we got a lot of people joining us today. We received a tremendous amount of applications to this webinar, and we're thankful for all our SOCRadar community over here. While we wait for other people, and we'll be starting in a session real quickly. Let's see where we have people from different kind of the world. We have Ro texting us from Argentina. That's really nice. Please use the chat section to let us know where you're joining us from. I'm really curious because SOCRadar is right now a global firm, and we have a global community in all over the world from different countries, and seeing different faces and different countries. This is making us even happier, and we are more excited to have you on this webinar. All right. All right. Yep. Just a quick introduction. Name is Burak. I'm the channel marketing manager at SOCRadar. Today in this webinar, it will be about 1 hour in total. At the end of the session, we'll have a quick questions and answers session today. So if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to ask us using the chat section, or there's a Q&A section in Zoom, whichever works for you. It doesn't matter. It's all right. And yeah, I think we can get this webinar going. Thank you very much for joining. And Matt, go ahead, please introduce yourself for us and for everyone who hasn't met you yet, maybe in the webinar attendees, and let's get this webinar going then. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's great to be with lots of people here. So, yeah, this is Matt. So we're going to talk about identity intelligence today, but let's make identities more clear. So, who am I? I'm a former naval officer. So I worked in defensive and offensive cyber operations previously. You can think about attacks on power grids, attacks on oil pipelines from military perspective, and so I created SOCRadar teams previously. So they're great people and doing great these days, especially providing, the information and the intelligence they provide prevents attacks. So that's very great. So I love as an individual, as a security guy. But that was not enough for me. I created also a nonprofit organization, Security for Community. You can check that out also. So we are providing intelligence for the companies. They don't have resources, very small businesses, individuals, and I'm a ransomware negotiator. So that's to help organizations to recover and other certification stuff. So currently I am. So if you are in North America or South America, so you can see me if you have any demo meetings or anything. So if you want to talk about anything about SOCRadar in these regions, you're going to see me on those meetings. So some of them, me and my team. So thank you. And let's jump into the our talk today. And so identity intelligence is, so we are talking about identity intelligence, which is new. So there was previously, lots of different types of intelligence, but why we are talking about identity intelligence? Because it's getting more importance. And so because as security guys, we create those controls for our organization. We built lots of tools and technologies in place, create teams, and we are building like a castle, and there's walls and the gate on the castle. So for operation, we are enabling the gate to open to let the right people in and right people out. But the thing is, from an offensive perspective, there are two ways to get in. So one, you may need to destroy the walls. The other one is you can basically walk through the gate. So, but it's not going to be possible if there are, enough measures to, stop you. But there are some ways to walk through the gate because it's going to be easier for you. You don't need to, destroying those walls. I mean, exploiting those vulnerabilities, detecting those vulnerabilities on the infrastructure, and exploiting them is still viable for attackers, but it is more easier to just walk in. So because of that, they say no need to hack in when you can log in. So I first heard this concept, and I mean that word like a year ago. Now it's getting more and more importance. You may see that on different products, on our services, marketing environments, but that's the reality, and it's growing. And because of that, the security defensive side says identity is a new perimeter because there should be more control. So MFA, multi-factor authentication, and other controls may not be enough because that's getting more importance. Today, we're gonna be more on the offensive perspective. I mean, we're gonna look from the offensive perspective more to understand what they do, how they do, and then by understanding that, then we can be able to understand or create ways to prevent those attacks. So, and let's see some sample attacks. So we're gonna see two attacks. One is the Change Healthcare event, and I recently heard that. So people started receiving those written notifications. I mean, people in the States getting those notifications that their data is stolen. That is actually a very hard to understand for most of the people because there are millions of people affected. So what happened actually? There was threat actors getting in Change Healthcare and then getting the data, and actually, and also not just getting, but that was a ransomware attack, and they actually asked for ransom. They encrypted all the data, and at the end of the day, they asked for $22 million. I mean, $22 million of ransom fee. But the effect of that attack to organization is estimated more than $2 billion, more than $2 billion of one single attack. So, but what happened there? So the attackers used, get in through Citrix portal, which is actually, which is used to log in remote resources and to get in internal networks. Citrix portal is one way to get in, and threat actors only used compromised credentials of those, one employee, and then it started with just one credential, and then it cost to an organization more than $2 billion. So it is very big, and it is, so here says no MFA, there was no even multi-factor authentication, but even there is multi-factor authentication, there are lots of ways and lots of attacks that we see, and that's one example. And the other attack I want to mention is the Colonial Pipeline. So it's kind of, so it's like 3 years old attack, but I want to highlight this because, because of critical infrastructure, so, so important to be safe on there because it's actually affecting people more physically, especially. And so that they're basically critical infrastructure. And what happened there, and the attackers actually get in the organization, just use a VPN account to get in. And the problem is actually they were not aware of there is a VPN account like that. I mean, access point. So we call it shadow IT. So, and that's another problem in my shadow IT. You can check SOCRadar website to understand how you can eliminate shadow IT. But the thing is, again, an access point, a gate on the castle, and then threat actors just use the password and then get in. So it's still, there was no multi-factor authentication, but even there was no, even if there is, so it's possible to get in and do the same attack. And because of that, it was 6 days to recover from the attack, and $4 million paid, but the life was really bad on those 6 days on those states. I mean, you can see this different states. There are more than 10 states that are affected because of the attack. So there is another case, actually, you can check. There was another attack on Saudi Arabia. The data was destroyed. So not this one, is there was a ransomware attack, but in that case, the data was destroyed. That was an Iran affiliated attack, and the company recovered in 6 months. So that means if the threat actors just destroy the data, to recover from this attack may take months. So it's devastating, but only started with one single password to get in, and just threat actors walk in through the gate. So that's why actually they say they no need to hack in when you can log in. And so, and it's getting more important. But there are some ways, some reasons why identity is getting more importance. So actually, we on corporate environment, SaaS application adoption is really increased. And so by using SaaS applications, we are giving most of the security controls to the service providers. I mean, those vendor companies. And then they actually help you to use security, but you are only managing generally the access point. I mean, the gateway, the gate of the castle. And so that means there will be more gates to be secured. So increasing the number of gates actually makes us more vulnerable on the identity part. So that's one thing. Another one is, so DevSecOps, so those security activities on development environments, development phases are actually more efficient. So it's getting better. That's a good news, because those attacks gonna target the lowest hanging fruits out there. So it is getting more efficient, and because of that, there is actually less zero-day vulnerabilities reported. For less zero-day vulnerabilities, actually, one thing is, DevSecOps is getting better, but the other thing is to find those vulnerabilities, there should be lots of resources. Think about it. You are a threat actor and you have two things to do, two alternatives. One is to focus on a product, focus on a company, and then do research and find zero-day vulnerability and get in. The other one is just do some research to find some dark web, dark web, monitor the dark web and understand, find those stolen credentials, or do some phishing campaign and just steal the credentials and get in. So this is, when you compare doing research on vulnerabilities and getting those credentials. So because of that, it is easier, and then we see less zero-day vulnerabilities reported every year. So the other thing is the cloud asset adoption. So that means like SaaS applications, more gates, and more gates mean actually more places to cover, and it's actually getting more important. So the other one is remote work, and we know again. So at the end of the day, the technology, puts us an environment that we have more and more gates. So previously there was like one gate or two gates, but for a mid-sized company, there can be 10, 20 different gates depending on your infrastructure, number of cloud assets, number of SaaS applications you use. You may have 100 gates. Because of that, there are new identity access management products and also identity intelligence. So it is getting more importance. And let's see some attacks meanwhile. So we say, okay, it's getting more important, but is that really adopted by threat actor as an initial attack vector, for example? That's the question. And let's check a couple reports. This one is from IBM Experts report, and you can see the numbers here. So the attacks were 16% for valid credentials, 2022, and last year the number goes up to 30%. It's nearly doubled. So you can see that So that means these are the stolen credentials that are in use. You can see the increase here, and you can see there is some decrease on phishing, but phishing is also still so important. And you can see the vulnerabilities that are exploited is a small decrease. So what does it mean? There's still vulnerability is still important, but there's it's going down, and but the identity part, stolen in credentials are really going up. And the other thing on the phishing is actually, as you know, there are two types of phishing attacks. If you analyze that, one is phishing for information, the other is phishing for malware. So those phishing for information attacks, actually, we can still say that these are identity related attacks because they're trying to steal your identities. The other one is phishing for malware. And the phishing for malware attacks is actually targeting different things, but let's jump into that part. So this one, as you can see, this is a recent report from Enron, and you can see the detected malware, and you can see that there are different types of malware, but like keyloggers, ransomware, loader, rat, remote access trojan, but stealers. So stealers is actually information stealer malware that is trying to steal your identity. So that means the top malware seen is trying to steal your identity. So let's go back here. So that means actually a big portion of that phishing is also should be counted as identity related attacks. So that makes nearly 50% of the attacks coming from identity related attacks. So that's why it is very important. So another report shows similar things. That's from Verizon, data breach investigation report. And you can see again, credentials nearly 40%, phishing and vulnerabilities. Here, as we can see, vulnerability part is a little bit less than the IBM report, but the important thing is credential and phishing makes around 50% or 60% for Verizon. So that is showing more than 50% actually. So that's why we need more technologies or tools, or we need more resources to increase the security on the gates. So yeah, and let's look at the web application part. And so if you check the OWASP web application security risk, and you can see these two, identification and authentication failure and broken access control, it is around 36%. So there are other types of attacks, but for just web application security, that is again very high number. So identity related attacks. So but if there are these risks, and what kind of attacks that we can see so what kind of attacks out there? And actually the number of potential attacks are not big. So we have 4 different types. So that means that's kind of good for defenders, because if you can address these attacks, so it's going to reduce the risk really quick. And let's talk about them. And so credential stuffing attacks is actually basically using stolen credentials from companies. So think about it. Let's say one of your employees used corporate email to register, let's say AT&T, and there's a data breach from AT&T, and the password can be used because people using same and similar password different places, that can be used in different places. So that can be also in corporate environment. What threat actors do is actually get those credentials and then try on different environments, and they are actually, it's kind of it's kind of a brute forcing attack. So they test million credential in one place to find any working credential. So there's a password guessing, so it's obvious. So they focus on some people, especially these are attacks for VIPs. So they find several passwords of one VIP, they do some research, and they try to understand the pattern, if there's a pattern, and then guess the password and then log in. So these are generally attacks against VIPs and also critical people like system admins and security professionals, things like that. So these are the people that has more power or more access in the corporate environment, because again, it should, doing that attack should address, I mean, at the end of the day, you need to be able to get in more gates. So that's the reason. So Kerberos thing is actually when the threat actor gets in and move laterally and find the active directory, and it's finding the password hashes that are stored in the environment, and then we're going to touch the stolen credential part. So how they do that? I mean, so I just mentioned them, but how they do that exactly? So for credential stuffing attacks, we can think that how they can find those credentials, right? So it's not that hard. Yeah, you can see a hacker forum. So there are places that you can find those credentials. Meanwhile, this hacker forum is recently taken down, but there are other hacker forums very similar to that. So you can see that there are millions of credentials. If you can see here, like 14 million, 7 million, that's a very long list meanwhile. So totally there are more than 15 billion credentials out there. And research show that 60% of people using the same password on everywhere. So think about it, and it's gonna be a good opportunity for threat actors. So they just need to find that place, download the credential, and then test. The important thing is they are distributing their attacks and not to be caught on their brute forcing efforts. They are coming from different IPs. They're coming. They're acting very slow. It's from that perspective may not seem much efficient, but they're going to be slow, and it's low cost attack. So I mean, low cost attack because of the credentials are just easy to access. So the other type of attack is, as mentioned, so the research also showed that 25% use similar credentials. So you have chance when you focus one VIP or one person, the chances of using the same or similar password is 25%. And again, they are doing the same research, getting that data, and also doing some more research on social media and other places. And then they are guessing that. So the chance is still good. And I was mentioning that. So what they do, they download all the hashes of those credentials on the corporate environment, and then they can. There are different types of attack, like pass the hash attacks, and also they can, if there's ways to crack those hashes. I mean, by using rainbow tables and others. So, but that attack is kind of different because for Kerberos thing, the threat actors are already in, and they want to move forward, and they want to see more gates. They already compromised some gates, and then they're moving in. And because you have more gates, they need to increase their attacks. So that's different than the others. So the other one is stolen credentials. So that is actually, we can see that these credentials are stolen from individual endpoints. So when you compare with the credential stuffing and password guessing attacks, you can remember that. So these credentials are breached from different organizations. So, but you can see some of them are more games, some different databases. But in this case, the data is breached stolen from individual endpoint. Pardon me. So to do that, what they do some phishing attacks, as I mentioned, and then the information stealer malware. So that's one type of malware. If you're not familiar, you should do more research about it. That's very critical. And the information stealer malware gets in and then steal credentials, steal autofill information from browsers, steal also credentials that are saved, let's say, to your Chrome browser or Firefox, different places. And also they steal session cookies. So that is important because session cookies is very popular. Using session cookies is very popular to bypass multi-factor authentication. So even we see the first attacks that there was no MFA in place, but even you have MFA. So by using those stolen session cookies, it's possible to bypass those multi-factor authentication. And there's actually a very recent case, Snowflake attack. You can also check that Snowflake attack. So there was another attack that information stealers used, but there was no MFA in place again. But the thing is, there are lots of other attacks, so it's very common. And what they do is actually, after exfiltrating those information, threat actors actually doing two things. Either they are selling on black markets, or they are sharing on different Telegram channels, hacker forums, things like that. But the important thing here is, so that stolen information, because these threat actors mainly threat actors that are focusing on just stealing the identity, so they can also use for their individual attacks, but it's a kind of black market business, and they are providing that because there's demand on the hacker community on those identities. They are addressing that demand by providing millions of credentials every day, I can say, because when one individual hacked, there's going to be around 100 to 200 credentials breach. So it's millions of credentials every day we see. And what they do, you can see one example. So that is one set of data that is real data. Meanwhile, it's one set of data stolen from one endpoint. Think about this: you are the victim. So your autofill information, your session cookies, the files that you downloaded, and your accounts and history information, and the passwords and everything, crypto wallets, or maybe some credit card information. So all are going to be stolen with one wrong click. So it's very common to see that. And think about it. So that is opening that individual and the company that individual works for to different types of attack, including ransomware attacks, business email compromise attacks, and all other. So that you can see now a screenshot from black market. You can see that. So the type of malware, so it's very common. So the demand is so high, and the supply is also in place. And there are some structured markets like this one. So you can do some search about your target organization. You can say, okay, this company A. So and you need maybe some Citrix credentials, maybe some CRM credentials to steal the customer information, things like that. And the only thing you need to do is actually just click this button, buy, for $10. So for $10, you can see that you can steal, you can get around more than 100 credentials and session cookies and some information, as you can see here. So that's very interesting because it's making things very easier. It's like going shopping and getting some ingredients and cooking. So it's like that making things that easy. And that's why actually other illegal entities like organized crimes and other entities that are moving to those cyber attacks, cyber crime, because it's more lucrative when you compare with other types of illegal activities. So it's making things easier for them. Can you say? Yes, so we're going to talk about a couple use cases. So I mentioned that ransomware attacks, business email compromise attack. So let's look at specifically those types of attacks and how they basically how they are conducted. And you can see the initial attack vectors here. So phishing emails, one important thing. The other one is using RDP access and credential abuse and some vulnerabilities. So as I mentioned, these two, phishing emails and RDP part, is two important things related to identities. And so when you see that, so there are ways to get in. So, but the thing is, so you can see RDP brute force and you can see which ways they are getting. So they're getting inside by using that identity related credential, and then so they do internal credential theft, as you can see, and then they move forward and they try to stay persistent in the infrastructure in their target environment. So that means you can actually, if you have related identity intelligence and identity access management resources in place, you can prevent the attacks from on different phases. So that's one thing you can do. And it's very devastating, those attacks, and it's they're stopping your business, shutting down your business. They're affecting your reputation, brand name, and also you need to pay a lot of money for ransom fees. So the biggest one was $75 million that I remember. It's Sensora, healthcare company in the States, and these are big money. And so what you can reduce the risk of those kind of attacks by utilizing more identity related security mechanism and identity intelligence, obviously. So the other one is business email compromise attack. You can see the steps. So by using those stolen credentials, it's really making things easier for the attacker. So what they do is actually basically they are finding one target organization, and then they do some research and find one of their third parties. And let's say there's a bank, and there's a company that provides some services, let's say HR services. And then what they do is they're focusing on that company, that third party company, and then they find a stolen email credential of one of their employees. That's that easy. And by getting in that email, they start communication, and they impersonate maybe some finance guy, and they provide some account numbers, some context, and they convince them to send money to different accounts. So it is a really big that critical attack. And when you compare the created harm on organization, it is actually business email compromise attacks are the second one after ransomware. So you can see these numbers from FBI, and in the States, the reported attacks, because the report is actually tip of the iceberg, and is more than $2 billion. And so it is just reported once. So they think that it's around $7 to $9 billion, but it is that big. So again, this is possible when they can log in the email. So they can also use some emails that are lookalike domains, but it is no need to do that, because you can be the threat actors gonna see that the risks are higher, because someone can see that there's a typo in the domain, right? But if you can steal a real person email address and utilize that, it's gonna reduce the chances of being caught, and then it's gonna increase the chances of the attack from attacker's perspective. So that's why they're using stolen identities for conducting these attacks. So the other one is fraud attacks. So for fraud attacks, there generally starts with account takeover attacks, and those account takeovers again start with general phishing attacks, and then the malware goes there and then steal information, and then so it is basically the same story. Getting in, stealing information, and using that stolen identity information to get in different places, and then the victim can be a company, can be an individual. So if that's an individual, it's more general, like fraud. Company, if that's company, it's business email compromise attack. If that is mainly doing stealing data and also encrypting the files there after you get in, so that's a ransomware attack basically. But the thing is, as you can see, stolen identity or identity related risk are very core security risk. So that should be addressed by us as security people. And so how we can break the attacks, stop the attack, so we can break this kill chain. So if you're familiar with Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain, so there are different steps to do those attacks. And so threat actors mainly do reconnaissance and create some weapons to conduct their attacks. But what they do on reconnaissance is actually that includes mainly they are looking for stolen identities. And But think about it. So if you do that research before the threat actors do, and then if you address those specific things, specific identities that are stolen, and then they cannot be able to, conduct their attack. So you're going to be able to break the kill chain from the first step. So are they going to stop? They're not going to stop, but in most probably they're going to move to another organization. And if they cannot find something else, some stolen credentials also there, so they're going to move to another one. So that's how you can actually prevent the attacks, because they don't want to kill their time. So the goal of them are not your organization. The goal of them is to make money. So to make money, to make money more efficiently, as everyone works and everyone tries to increase their productivity, and all companies try to boost efficiency. Threat actors also try to boost their efficiency, and they are moving to lowest hanging fruits. If they have no specific agendas like APT groups that are backed by nation states, things like that, if there's no specific reason, which is the chances are low, because there are more threat actors that they're just looking for money. So we can basically focus on the reconnaissance part, and then prevent loss of the attacks. And that doesn't mean we should also put some resources on different places, but it's going to be the easier way and the cheapest way to do research on the initial phase. And for example, I can show a couple examples here. So on the right side, you can see SOCRadar platform. So we are collecting those stolen information. So we are actually doing those research like threat actors do. And we are doing for information stealers. We are doing that research starting from 4 years ago. So within the last 4 years. So I can say that. So we are the first company that doing research on these credentials. And it was not popular when we start doing that, but now it's very popular. And so we are checking, different hacker forums and different tons of Telegram channels. We're analyzing that data and helping our, customers. And you can see, for example, some Citrix account. As you remember from Change Healthcare, that was a stolen Citrix account, right? So on the right-hand side, you can see different Citrix accounts related to different companies from different countries. And so the thing is, from threat actors' perspective, it is just, getting that credential and logging in and then doing attack. But for the defender's perspective, it is just, getting the data from dark web and then, taking action, resetting the password, analyzing if there's any suspicious activities, things like that. And so the important thing is who is gonna be faster. So who's gonna be faster? If the threat actor, conduct the attack before you take action, so it's gonna get in. If not, if you are the faster one, so they cannot be able to use that stolen credential. So because of that, using SOCRadar service is great there, because we are, collecting those information, and then, after getting that information, we are analyzing it the same day, and then providing you through API, you can automatically take action, and then change the password and create some notification depending on the risk that system has, that you provide, you secure the gate. And then so it's going to make you faster, because there's no human touch there. So collecting data automated, analyzing data automated, notification automated, taking action on your end is automated, because you're going to get through API and automatically take action. So there's no way to, the threat actor can be faster than that if they are looking the same, data set and data, places. So that's a very efficient way to stop those attacks. Actually, I can say that. So as I mentioned, these credentials are on sale. If they're on sale on black market, it's going to be between $10 to $50 on the markets. And the next thing is someone gets those credentials, let's say for $10, and they get in, and then they make sure the access is working, and then they can sell that unauthorized access to other attackers for $10,000. So they buy for $10, get in, and then sell that unauthorized access for $10,000, and the other threat actor actually getting that access, and then they are putting ransomware and then asking for $1 million. So that means, $10, $10,000, and $1 million. So when you compare these numbers, so it is more efficient, easy, and cheaper to, get that credential on when that is just $10. So that is the core of basically identity, preventing identity related attacks. So there's another case. So that is a real case, and the information is real. And there was a attack incident to one of our big four companies. They were doing incident response activities and asked for our support. We do research, and then we understand that. So their customer just became a victim by using a development environment credential. That's, you can see on the right hand side, logins, and you can see the URL and the password information here. So we detected that. So how they get the data. This can be used also, the identity intelligence can be used to understand what happened and how the threat actors do the attack after the attack, post-attack investigations. But the thing is, we also understand that we find two of other customers on that list, and we notified them, and then actually we prevented their attack. So that's a real case. Threat actors are actually, moving one by one those credentials and checking if they work and else. So, but that's a very good example that we actually, can know that we prevented the attack, because if you work on intelligence and you do some activities, it's not possible to measure if that. So there are some ways to measure, but for identity related things, it's not easy to understand if that's going to be attacked or not. So, but this case is really showing us clearly. So we saved these two companies from ransomware attacks directly with just these two credentials. And so I want to end with SOCRadar platform. You can see that we provide dark web monitoring, and 90% of the dark web monitoring is related to address identity related risk. And not just, also there is the information stealers, as I was mentioning. There's the breach data sets, and to prevent credential stuffing attacks, password guessing attacks, and also stolen credential attacks. And also you can, by using SOCRadar services, you can detect if there is any unauthorized access sale on hacker forums. And so I mentioned like $10, $10,000, and $1 million. So even detecting something when that is $10,000, it is still good. When you compare with $1 million, $1 million. So we can also detect these kind of things, and we are doing negotiations if requested. We are doing also transactions. That's saving lots of money and reducing financial compliance and security risks, things like that. So yeah, that's really important. I mean, identity intelligence is getting more importance. It's going to go up. Now it is around 50%, more than 50%, depending on the research. I mean, the attacks coming through identity-related things, I mean, credentials, stolen identities, and it's going to go up. So it's not going down. So after 3-4 months, we're going to see this year's number, and it's not going to go down, but it's going to go up. So thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today on the webinar. Now let's have a quick Q&A session. If you have any questions, please use the chat and ask us questions, and Matt is here to answer them. And in the meantime, I dropped down some links, valuable links over there. You can request your free XTA account, or if you'd like to see a demo, use the other link and fill up the form, please. And we are actually hosting another webinar on Thursday about supply chain intelligence and supply chain threats. And our CISO will be a speaker on that one. So if you'd like to register to do this webinar, use the link on the chat. Let's see if you have any questions. Let me see. All right. No, I don't see any questions. That's a first. I think you answered all the questions, Matt, for people that might have this webinar.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Informative.
actually, yeah, no need to hack in when you can log in. That's pretty straightforward.
It's very straightforward. I think it's, yeah, that's why it's very clear and I don't see any questions. All right. Okay. Okay, since we don't see any questions, in the meantime, if you'll have any in the future, you can contact Matt or me directly. Yeah, I think we have one question just coming in from Mimi. Yes. What is the best mitigation for healthcare systems that do not have MFA inbuilt?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So there are lots of legacy, systems on healthcare, pipelines, power grids, different places, and to provide them. So it is better not to expose them to extra to internet, because there should be, so if we cannot put good security mechanisms on the gate of that's our service. I don't know the details of that operation, but the thing is, you can get that small castle into a big castle, and then put more resources on the on that castle. So that means it's gonna be an internal system, if that's possible. Also, again, um, doing so, if you cannot put actively MFA in place, if that's not possible, and then also is in this case also focusing on more reconnaissance part that threat actors do, is going to reduce your risk, because at the end of the day they are going to use those credentials, those stolen identities to get in, and so that's going to be more important to get identity intelligence. So.
Thanks, Matt, for that explanation. We have one more question. I think you're gonna like this one on the Q&A session on the Zoom. Where do you collect your threat intel data?
Yeah. So
Oh,
so
good.
we are collecting that data where the threat actors find them. So this is possible that they can be on sale on hacker forums and different places. They can be shared in some closed threat actor groups, or semi-closed or open groups. I mean, public threat actor groups. Also, there are lots of public threat actor groups. They're helping each other. That's a different community meanwhile. But we are going those different places, so they can be on different platforms, hacker forums, Telegram channels, Discord channels, ICQ, different places. But this is the goal is actually we are going after where the threat actors are, sharing those or selling those information, and collecting those information, and then creating intelligence for you.
Thank you, Matt. Let's see if we have any more questions. We have one more. Yes, we will share the Artem is asking if we'll share the recording of the session. Yes, this is recorded and it will be shared with all participants. And also some of us, some of you guys couldn't make it to the session, even though they registered. And the recording will be shared with all of you. Also, it will be available on our website on the on-demand webinar section. So if you'll want to ever revisit the content over here, feel free to do so. We're always transparent on that end.
Yeah, Brock,
Okay.
actually, I want to add one thing here. So the thing is, so as I mentioned, I'm a solutions engineering manager. And if you are in North America, South America, and if you get any demos, also, we can check those intelligence. I mean, the intelligence related to your organization live on those meetings. If you also want to see what's happening about your organization, what kind of things that can be used by a threat actor just to walk through your gates, and you can do that. And even the other regions, there's going to be other people, but yeah, I would invite all of you guys to see what is out there.
Thank you, Matt. I don't see any more questions, so we'll just say farewell for right now. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you on the next session. Hopefully, I'll see you on the next webinar as well. Have a nice day, and thank you very much one more time. Have a good day. Bye bye.